Hold on. There we go. I think it's working now. Welcome to Mental Health Monday. Today we're talking about coping with stress. If you don't know where you are and what you're watching, my name is Latanya Brumfield. I am a coach with Always Up Coaching. I started this show because we all to discuss mental health like it's a thing that all of us have to deal with as we do. We all have our ups and downs when it comes to our mental health. So we need to get used to discussing it on a regular basis. So, as I said, my name is Latanya Brumfield. This show is sponsored by my coaching firm, Always Up Coaching. Our goal is to make a positive impact on everyone we encounter. One of the ways we do that is this show. Another way we do that is we offer a free hour of life coaching for everyone who wants one. All you have to do is go to our website, alwaysupcoaching.com, and click book a free discovery appointment, and you will be directed to our calendars where you can book an appointment. Okay, so whenever you're ready, we'd happy to have an hour talking with you. It's no big deal. We're going to send you an intake packet just so we can learn a little bit about you before the appointment, and we can make the most out of your appointment. But during your appointment, it's all going to be about being proactive, about making happen whatever you want to make happen in your life. So I've posted our all of our socials in the comment section. One thing I always forget to post is the website, but it's easy to remember: www.alwaysupcoaching.com. And we also have a show on Saturday. It's called Self-Care Saturday that usually airs at 11 a.m. This Saturday we will not be able to air. We actually have a conference that we're gonna be have a vendor table set up at, so we won't be able to broadcast live. And we've run out of time to record an episode for y'all. So this week we will be absent, but we'll be back the following Saturday. So don't forget to catch that. But we will be back next Monday with more Mental Health Monday. So let's get started. Today we are talking about not only stress, but how to cope with stress. So first off, what is stress? What is stress? I'm not going to give you a dictionary definition of stress, but stress is anything that raises your discomfort level up a little bit or a lot, right? Some people kind of compare it in a similar way to anxiety, but usually it just means that, you're in a situation that, is tight, it's not comfortable. Usually that means a lot of things need to get done. Things may not get done. There's a lot of pressure on you from different ways, maybe home, life, work. So stress is a very person-specific thing that can vary in definition based on how we each experience the world and based on our previous life experiences, right? Because what can be stressful to one person could not be stressful to another. But I think we all know what stress feels like. So, common sources of stress, as I alluded to earlier, relationships. Relationships can cause stress. In particular, unhealthy relationships, as we started to talk about healthy relationships last week. And that, can include families. The family environment can be stressful. What's going on in families, just the things you have to do to maintain a healthy family can be stressful, right? And then you have your workplace, right? A lot of us have stress on our workplace. Now, let me just make something clear. Stress is a natural phenomenon in life, right? There are never times when we're not going to have stress. We can't eliminate stress, unfortunately. But what we can do is mitigate for it, just prepare for it, and have a plan for what we're going to do when we feel stressed or we feel too stressed. Sometimes stress could be a healthy emotion because it can make us do the things we don't want to do, right? Because something's happening. We don't really do that thing, but now we're stressed, so let's just do it and get it over with, right? And then the stress is alleviated, right? So it's a motivator in a way. So, but when it becomes unhealthy is a time that we need to make sure that we're planning to have things to do to mitigate for it, to prevent it from getting extreme, right? And to treat it when it becomes overwhelming for us, right? So stress can be two experienced in two different ways, right? It can be experienced as, oh, and then a type of stress I did not mention earlier when I talked about relationships, family, work, is financial stress. A lot of people don't talk about financial stress. Um, a lot of us, especially in the economy now, undergoing financial stress because we do not, um, our dollar cannot take us as far as it used to even a year ago or 2 years ago, right? So we're having to do things to mitigate and alleviate the financial stress, right? Some of us may be working extra jobs, starting businesses, changing the way we buy groceries, maybe rolling back the type of vacations we do. That's all a technique for dealing with financial stress, right? So physical and mental stress. Physical stress can be caused by mental stress, but physical stress can be alone by itself as well as mental stress, and vice versa. Physical stress can cause mental stress. Imagine, you are worrying about something so much your blood pressure goes up, right? That's the mental stress in your mind creating a physical response in your body. But also imagine that, you're ill, and because you're ill, you're not able to do the things you want to do, right? And that can create mental stress. Oh, Miss Weaver's joining us. Hey, Miss Weaver, I'm sorry I missed your first comment. Welcome back. Glad to have you again. I appreciate you joining us yet again. You should be getting your journal sometime soon. Tomorrow, if you don't hear from me, inbox me so I can give you your tracking number, okay? But yeah, Miss Weaver won our 10K giveaway, and if you're not following Always Up Coaching, we're going to be doing another giveaway next month because we're going to celebrate 2 years of being in business for Always Up Coaching. So we are going to be doing another giveaway. Don't know what it is yet, I'm trying to think of something unique. So it might take a minute, just because, we like to be different here at Always Up Coaching. We pride ourselves in being different in the weird ways that typically people don't like to be different. That's how we like to be different. So be looking out for that. Make sure you follow us so you won't miss that time when it comes, because one of the qualifications for entry will be that you are a follower of Always Up Coaching. So be sure to do that. But welcome back, Miss Weaver. So physical causes mental, mental causes physical. I know I'm the type of person who likes to do stuff and, be that person who, is doing various things. I'm a busybody. I just am. I'm a busybody. I like to do things. I like to have hobbies. I like to make things happen. So if I'm sick and I can't do those things, that is very mentally distressing for me. And the longer I'm sick, the more stressful it can become, which can inhibit my body healing from whatever, the flu or whatever I'm down from, right? So they go on hand in hand. So anytime you experience one, the other could possibly be not that far behind. That's physical and mental stress. So it's important that we cope with stress, right? Because we don't want it to get worse, right? And there's many negative effects, long-term effects of stress, right? Remember we said stress was a normal experience in life, but it should only be temporary and it should be not overwhelming, right? But if it goes beyond temporary and it becomes overwhelming for a long period of time, that's when we start experiencing negative effects. And that's stuff like high blood pressure, one of the things that, puts people at risk for heart disease is chronic stress, because different hormones start running around in your body and it changes the way your body functions, right? It makes the inflammation levels in your body go up, which makes you more predisposed to have heart attacks because you're more predisposed to throw clots in your body. And that's how people have heart attacks. That little narrow vessel from, not eating right is now narrow because there's all this plaque on there from the fats. And if that very narrow vessel gets very, very narrow, and sometimes it gets narrow to the point where that inflammation goes up, the platelets stick, right? Y'all getting a biology lesson here. The platelets stick, right? And you develop a clot in that little narrow area. And sometimes just the blood pressure alone will clamp down on that vessel, and you can't get oxygen to your heart. And that's how you have a heart attack, right? So that's why stress is an important thing to consider if you are already at risk from other things for having a heart disease, like, DNA, family history. Maybe, you go to the doctor and they say your cholesterol is up, so you're at risk for atherosclerosis, which is that plaque in your vessels, right? So you need to, really control the factors you can control, right? So that's a reason you need to control the stress levels in your life. Also, stress is not fun. Who wants to be under stress all the time? So that can create long-term mental health effects if you are operating under chronic stress levels. That's where, a lot of times people will encourage you to change jobs. I remember I had a first doctor who ever really listened thoroughly to me, who told me to change jobs because I was undergoing so much stress, because that mental stress that I was engaging in every single day that got worse and worse over time started to cause physical manifestations. I broke out in the shingles, right? So, during this period of time, I was in my early to mid 30s, right? That's not typically the age group that breaks out in shingles, right? But it was because of such the significant stress levels in my body, as well as some other things. At that time, I had undiagnosed autoimmune disease. So managing our stress is an important thing to do in order to live a healthy life. So let's talk about some things we can do to manage and mitigate for stress. So number one is mindfulness practices. Mindfulness, being mindful of what we're doing, how we're doing it, how we're feeling while we're doing it, right? And whether or not we're under too much stress from the thing, right? So mindfulness practices, what's included under this umbrella is a broad category of things, right? Sometimes just literally sitting and thinking and reflecting in the moment, just mentally, or maybe using a journal. We always talk about journals here, and planners and stuff like that. Reflecting on what you're doing that may be affecting your stress level. Maybe if you're suffering with chronic stress that, kind of waxes and wanes, writing down a stress level every day, creating like a scale for yourself, like on a scale of 1 to 5, how stressed am I today? And writing down when you feel a 5 versus a 1, and being mindful of, on the days that you're writing 5s, what happened? What did you do? Can we eliminate those things from our life? Can we do something to lower the stress level around those things that are happening on the days we rate ourselves a 5? So that is being mindful, just using a journal and reflecting and thinking in our head, like, man, I'm just overly stressed today. What is going on with me, right? So some strategies that can help you be more mindful, or exercise, or examples of practices, is exercise. That's excellent, Miss Weaver. That was like the first thing on my list. And almost everything when we talk about self-care and mental health, exercise is always at the top of the list, because first of all, it helps our body to function normally, right? Because if our body's not functioning normally, we're going to be under physical stress, which is going to amplify mental stress, back and forth, vice versa, right? But we also talk about exercise releasing those endorphins, right? That dopamine, that chemical in your brain that tells you everything's okay. It's not the end of the world, right? We use that kind of cavalier, like it's not the end of the world, but to some people, minor things can be the end of the world, right? Imagine, and I've, people, working hard to get through this educational program, and they fail a course and they're no longer eligible for that program, right? If that's all they ever thought about doing in their life is doing that one thing that was the outcome of that program, that could be the end of the world, right? But if we don't have those healthy chemicals in our brain to tell us it's not the end of the world, we're going to be sad for a little while, but we're going to bounce back, right? But without those chemicals there, it can really tip the scales on our mental health and end up being a long-term problem that becomes very problematic and just can snowball on us. So that was a good one. That was the first thing I had on the list, is exercise. In particular, when it comes to mindfulness, exercise like yoga, stretching, stuff like that. But also meditation, which can go hand in hand with yoga, just like sitting quietly, thinking, breathing deeply, because breathing deeply alone can be a practice, but you could do it in combination with a practice like yoga, right? So, so yes, exercise can go hand in hand with mindfulness. When I did cardio a lot, I did a lot of thinking and mindfulness during cardio. So it doesn't have to be a relaxing exercise like yoga. It can be something like jogging or riding your bike. You can be mindful while you're doing those things. So excellent. Exercise, mindfulness, meditation, deep breathing is always good, because filling our vessels with oxygen does things for us, right? And at any given time we have oxygen, but taking those deep breaths hyper concentrate our bloodstream with oxygen, and it has positive effects. And visualization is just like, okay, I'm sitting here being stressed about this thing that I'm doing that may involve some kind of bad outcome if I don't do it right. Let me take a moment, sit here and visualize this thing being a positive outcome. Let me feel myself with a feeling of what will happen if it's a positive outcome, right? That is visualization. And it's just a good way to tip the scales on positive versus negative thought. So Miss Weaver says, I walk. I have arthritis in my neck. She's tried yoga, but she can't get on the floor. And that's a good thing to mention, because not every practice is for everybody. Yoga is very difficult. I have neck issues too, so I definitely know what you mean. Sometimes everybody it's just your neck, but you are working those neck muscles and making neck movements, and any other physical movement you're doing, it's just hard not to do it, because you're naturally balancing your head in any movement you make. So it's hard not to engage your neck. So yoga is very difficult for some people. Now, I will say that instead of the practice of yoga, one thing that is just good is just a stretch routine. So even a stretch routine, like some physical therapists can give you a stretch routine for your neck. There's some good videos on YouTube too about stretch routines for your neck and your upper back. Even taking 10 or 15 minutes to do that, and just being mindful and thinking and deep breathing while you're doing that, can give you the effect of yoga. So I encourage you to try to do that. And also, it's very good for your neck health as well, and keeping those neck joints lubricated as best you can. Obviously within limitation, right? You don't want to be doing something that's causing you severe pain, but obviously do what you can to keep your neck in optimal shape, because it gets to a certain point and we can't reverse it, but we do want to keep the function we do have, right? So I would say maybe seek out a good YouTube video. There's lots of good stretch videos for necks, and a lot of them are made by physical therapists, and they give really good advice. And also some chiropractors do them too. But that be if you feel like you need a mindfulness exercise, so to speak, just a gentle stretch of your neck. It doesn't take much, right? I have some that the physical therapist taught me. I would do them now, but Mike's probably gonna fall all over the floor or whatever. But I would seek out on YouTube some good stretches for your neck, and just use that as a mindfulness type yoga type practice, And then we hold a lot of tension in our neck and a stress on our neck, right? So that probably, if you are experiencing stress, would be helpful, and this goes for anybody, not just people with neck issues. We hold a lot of tension and stress on our neck. A lot of us who have stress headaches have tension in our neck, and neck exercises and neck stretches are excellent for that. Thank you for bringing that up, because I hold a lot of tension in my neck with stress, and I'm feeling it now because I'm having a stressful week, and I'm gonna share that with y'all in a little bit. But it's just a lot of stuff going on right now in this week, and it's good stress because it's all happy things that's going on, but it's a lot of things I want to do. It's a lot of things I'm excited about, and a lot of times when we get excited about things happening, we want it to happen in a certain way, right? And the stress comes with making sure I do all the things so it comes out the way I want it to come out. So that's mindfulness and exercises. So I'm gonna move on to time management, and this has to do with my stress level right now. So just a peek in my life, right? So that today, I had something due for I'm doing a national nursing conference. I'm speaking at a national nursing conference in May, and I had to turn in the first draft of my PowerPoint for approval. So that deadline is today. I also work on the side as an expert witness as a nurse, and I got a new client on Friday who needed a preliminary report on Sunday. So that was the stress this weekend. I'm also working on finishing my doctorate degree, which I had some deadlines for that, but I also I kind of advanced my deadline because I wanted to get it off my mind for a couple weeks. So I was like, I got to finish this so I could just stop thinking about it and it'll alleviate some of the stress in my life, right? So I had made a deadline for myself for that for last night. I also, as I mentioned, am doing the convention this week where we're setting up a table for Always Up Coaching. So this is the first time we're doing this, so I want to do it right, right? So, right. I say right a lot, y'all. Hopefully that doesn't sound so crazy to y'all when y'all listen to me talk. I guess y'all will get used to it if you keep hanging out with me. But, so, I'm having to design banners, have them printed, print up some like media to give stuff out to people, prepare my packages, right? And the other thing with my business, I have 2 new coaches coming on. My co-hosts for this show and Self-Care Saturday are coming on as associate coaches at my business, right? So I have to put their profiles on the website, make sure they're set up to take appointments and do all these things, right? So it's a lot of things in a short period of time. Thank you so much, Miss Deanna. I appreciate the good luck wishes. And I receive them in my spirit. It does make me feel good to get positive wishes. It helps eliminate the stress level, right? Because people are cheering me on and wishing me luck, right? So it lets me know, hey, you could do it. People believe in you. You're gonna make it happen. You don't have to stress about it, right? And that's going to tie in a minute to another tip as well. So time management for me this week in particular and over the last weekend is key to managing my stress. Like, okay, first of all, we got to prioritize in order to manage our time appropriately, right? So what is priority? What's due today? What do I need to advance to the list now? Because now it is due today and it's not done. Prioritizing is the key to time management, but also knowing when enough is enough, right? Creating a time window for something and knowing that, okay, I need to call it done, right? We always don't want to call things, and I say we, but I sometimes don't want to call things done until it's perfection. And sometimes my perfection is totally different from somebody else's perfection. So sometimes achieving that level of perfection is not always the best thing, right? Because I'm wasting my time. And that's important for time management. Hey, Bettina, welcome. Thanks for coming and watching today. Good to see you back. So I've got to reel myself in. So last night, as I was up very late finishing my paper, I felt it could have been a lot better. But I was like, I'm spending too much time trying to make it perfect, trying to tweak it and take out this, add this, put that back in, right? Doing those kind of things. And I said, you know what? I'm about to set it free, right? I'm setting this paper free. And I turned it in at 3 o'clock this morning. But I just looked at my score about an hour ago and I got a perfect score. But I could have spent, had I not made that decision to just cut it off, I was creating stress for myself by seeking perfection, right? And I was not managing my time appropriately. So imagine had I spent another hour or 2 trying to make it perfect for no reason, right? There's only so far you can go. You can't go any better than a perfect score, right? So that time would have been wasted. But knowing when enough is enough is a excellent time management thing to think about, right? And then just using a planner and a journal, right? When I say using a planner, I tell my clients that planning is as simple as the simplest version of planning is having a task list. a task list. And if you've never been a planner, and an excellent type of planning to use and journaling to use, if you were trying to get in a routine, is bullet journaling. And if I can remember later, I'm going to put a link to a video about bullet journaling in the comment section for you guys. Or either I had made a handout for my clients. I'm going to try to maybe link that handout in there for y'all as well. So, but bullet journaling is an excellent way. But if it's nothing but keeping an ongoing to-do list, right? You can keep it on your phone. It ain't even got to be on paper. And just revisiting that list and reprioritizing things so you can manage your time appropriately. But also, if you're like me and you're time blind, setting timers for yourself so you can know when you spent way too much time to do something, right? And things typically take me longer than I think they should, or either the vice versa. They take me a lot shorter than I think they should, but I spend more time because I was like, oh, this was quicker. Now let me try to make it more perfect than perfect, right? So I use that extra time instead of just saying, cut it off. You're already ahead of the game, right? So keeping a timer on yourself, and also that self-talk, being realistic, like turn it like I was last night with myself about that particular paper, hey, it's good. It's good. I knew it at least met the standard of good. But me having a spirit of excellence, I wanted to make sure it would receive excellent ratings. And so I have this thought process in my mind that goes on and back and forth, and reminding myself that sometimes excellent to me is not excellent to somebody else. So reaching for excellence is not always required, because I may achieve it in my sight, but somebody may come back and tell me it's mediocre for whatever reason. It's happened before. But so if I have other things on my table, I can't try to make this thing perfect. And in the meantime, something else is suffering, right? And it's going to be mediocre because I was trying to make this thing perfect when it was already good, right? So just having those realistic self-talks with yourself is so important for time management, and therefore managing stress, because it's those time conscious that sometimes cause stress, or failure to meet deadlines can cause stress. Now, that being said, I made 100 on that paper, but I'm not meeting my deadline for the conference today. Luckily, because this is not my first time not meeting the deadline, I do know that they do give grace and mercy on turning that stuff in, because they do value the content I'm bringing to the conference, right? So I know I have a little bit of extra time to work with, and I'm going to open up that communication with them. That's another method of alleviating stress: communicating with people in your life that would that can reassure you that everything's fine and alleviate the stress. So send an email to them, say, hey, look, everything happened all at once this week. I'm going to need an extra week, but I will have it to you next week. And they're going to reply, okay, not a big deal, right? We create deadlines, but a lot of times deadlines are created way in advance to mitigate for situations like mine, right? In which I can't get it to them in time, right? So it's important that we realize that, and also realize that sometimes if we lose opportunity because we didn't meet a deadline, maybe that opportunity wasn't for us because we couldn't bring our best self to it, right? So we can't always live in fear that we're going to lose an opportunity because we can't meet deadlines, because I could have turned something in today, but it wouldn't have been to my satisfaction. And I would have had regrets, and I'd rather be late than have regrets. So let me keep it moving, y'all. That's time management. Thank you, Bettina. These are tips that have been learned through many years of living with ADD and being late for things and turning in things late and trying to be on time, doing things at the last minute, things, creating my own stress by, through faulty thought processes in my mind, right? So I've learned to create systems. I've learned to do a lot of self-talk with myself and be realistic about things. I learned to believe that, what's for me was for me, and that, things not happening aren't the end of the world, right? Because they aren't. Here I am standing, successful, living in a warm, comfortable house, children are healthy, so all those things that have happened before have not affected where I am now, right? So reminding myself of those things repeatedly is so important. So self-talk is huge. Self-talk, journaling, writing. If you're not the person who can have the conversation in your head, since I've learned this, within the last few years, some people don't think in words, right? So they can't have that conversation in their head. For those people, you really need to write things down and have a journal and talk to yourself on paper. So another issue that goes hand in hand a little bit with time management is sleep, right? Making time for adequate sleep. So a lot of times we're in time crunch, we do forego sleep for things, right? I stayed up late last night. However, because I was thinking and managing my time, I knew that on Monday nights, I work Monday nights. I go to work after I leave the show, right? So I do know that I can sleep late on Monday mornings to adjust my time clock to be up Monday nights, right? So yesterday morning, I slept late, right? So I could stay up late, right? So even though I stayed up to 3, it was a stretching it a little bit because I didn't sleep that late yesterday, but it allowed me to stay up to 3, do what I needed to do, go to sleep and sleep through till 1 o'clock today, right? Because I was sleeping, getting my thorough sleep, and it's going to allow me to stay up late tonight at work, right? So that is time management. It's preparing for sleep. And a lot of things we do not prepare for is to account for sleep. Miss Weaver says she takes art class and makes jewelry. That is an excellent thing. Hobbies are the best stress reliever. So let's talk about that now, right? We talked about in self-care on Self-Care Saturday about how important hobbies are for self-care, in particular emotional self-care, right? And we talked about it for intellectual self-care too. Hobbies release the dopamine, right? Art in particular and jewelry making, because we're producing things that are pleasing to our eye, that releases the dopamine in our head and actually regulates our emotions and our feelings, which include stress, right? So having hobbies that involve creation of something that is pleasing to us, right? And that could be, writing poetry, writing song lyrics, playing music, writing music. It could be writing books, self-help books, That's kind of recreation for me lately because I got a couple books I'm working on. But when you see the outcome and it's pleasing, it produces dopamine, which is excellent for regulating stress. So as we manage our time, we need to include time for the things that we enjoy, our hobbies. So, adult coloring books are excellent. I think I shared with y'all on another show that during COVID, I worked in a COVID ICU. ICU is my primary nursing specialty, and it was very stressful. And during that time, I was working in ICU that took care of pregnant women. So there's, this extra layer of stress because one patient becomes 2, right? So what the administration did was they brought in adult coloring books and coloring pencils for us. And they allowed us to temporarily hang them on the walls, right? Because it was very stress relieving to see the colors and just to do something that didn't involve too much thought, right? But also produce a creative outcome that was pleasing to us, and we got to hang it up and see it all the time, right? Which added this other layer of producing something that alleviated stress, something that everybody could enjoy. Bettina enjoys writing songs. I have been privileged to listen to some of her music, right? And it's very pleasing. I enjoy listening to it. So producing music and listening to music, right? All good things for stress. Life is about balance, y'all. And a lot of times when you find that stress is on the negative end of the spectrum, we have not produced, or we need to get balance back in order, right? So better time management and planning in advance to allow times for the things that will help manage our stress level when the crunch level comes, right? Lucky for me, as I prepared for this conference, I enjoy some of the things I'm doing, which is helping to manage my stress. Even though my stress level is high, it's not getting so high where it's impairing me or creating a problem. So it's important to plan to do those things, and that's why when I push entrepreneurship for people, one of the things I push is you want to engage in something that you love, right? Passion into profit, right? And because you because you choose something you're passionate about to make money in entrepreneurship. When there's crunch time, when there's stress level, when there's deadlines, right? There's enough dopamine produced to keep you going past that stress and to manage the stress appropriately. So another thing I'm going to add in here next is social support. Having people around you that can support you in stressful times. Having people that can help you do things that, might cause stress, right? So, with me preparing to set up at this convention, there's a whole bunch of things I don't even, first of all, know to do everything, right? Because every time you do something the first time, it's a learning experience, right? It's learning as you go. And so you may not think of everything. So I'm consulting a lot of people in my social group. What do you think? What do you think with this? Do you think that here? Look at this photo. Would that make a good banner? Like having the people you can bounce ideas off of and communicate with, and feel more comfortable about your decision-making process, but also people who can help you do the physical things like, hey, can you come sit at my table for so many hours while I can't be there? Or, can you help me move this stuff and set up the night before? Having that physical support of people in your life and creating that circle in which people believe in you and what you're doing, right? Because if people don't believe in your business model and what you do for a business, they're not going to want to support you in it, right? So having people in your circle that not only believe in you as an individual, they believe in the activities you engage in as well. So social support is huge, y'all. Huge, huge, huge. Okay, back to physical nutrition, eating the right foods. You got to have the right foods in order to ensure that you you can produce. I got stuck. My brain got stuck for a second. Senior citizen moment, I guess, or something. But eat the right foods and have the right nutrients to build all the things you need to function, your body to function appropriately, and to produce those neurotransmitters that help regulate your stress level. It's important. So vegetables, and also meats, because we need amino acids to build things for our bodies too. If not meats, other proteins, sources, beans, whatever, because meats are not our only source of amino acids. However, we have to have a balanced diet that works for us, each individual, because we're all different. So relaxation techniques, that kind of goes back to the deep breathing, the meditation, the hypnosis, but also, there's different techniques. Like there's this technique where you could just close your eyes and tense and relax different muscles in your body. Like, people start from their toes. Tense and relax my toes. Focus on tensing them, focus on relaxing them. My ankles, my calves. And that's a relaxation techniques, because you focus on relaxing those muscles. Because remember I said, like, muscles like in your neck can hold tension. Your whole body can hold tension. That can enhance stress that you're already enduring. So setting realistic expectations for yourself. And I've already touched about this, sharing my experience this week with, trying to make things perfect. You just got to be real with yourself. Have that self-talk and bounce it off of a friend. That's why social support is important, because they can help you establish what a realistic expectation is. Because sometimes it's hard for us to be objective with ourselves, right? So we put unrealistic expectations on ourselves. Also, sometimes other people put unrealistic expectations on us. So it's also important to be very aware that we may be in a situation in which we're repeatedly having unrealistic expectations placed on us, and that may be the source of our stress. So just self-awareness of the expectations placed on us and the expectations we place on ourselves, right? And set realistic expectations. And just always ask yourself, is this a realistic goal? Can I realistically do it? Do I have the time? I may have the time, but do I have the energy? We have to have mental and physical energy to do things too. We can have all the time in the world, but if we don't have mental and physical energy, sometimes we can't make it happen, right? So realistic expectations is so key, because what happens is when we don't meet that expectation, there's another layer of stress, right? And there's also a defeatist negative negative thought process that could sow seed in our brains, right? Which can further enhance stress level. So we talked a lot about coping mechanisms. So just for a few minutes, I'm going to talk about unhealthy coping mechanisms, because what happens in a lot of people is like they feel the stress, and because they have not planned to deal with the stress or mitigate it for the stress, as we talked about earlier, they default to quick fix unhealthy coping mechanisms. And we can all think about at least one off the top of our head that involves the abuse of substances. So that could be, alcohol. It could be, illegal, illicit drugs or illegal drugs, however you want to phrase it. It could also mean the abuse of drugs we already have, right? I know in the medical field, we see a lot of people who are prescribed anxiety medicine called Xanax, and they're prescribed it to take as needed for anxiety. But what they do is some of them, tend to, in stressful times, abuse it and take more than is prescribed, right? So that is one version of unhealthy coping mechanisms, right? Another unhealthy coping mechanism is shutting yourself down. Just literally saying, I give up, and throwing everything out the window and just failing to cope, period. Not just using a mechanism of not coping at all, right? That is an unhealthy mechanism. Well, I'm gonna, that's just saying to yourself, okay, I can't deal with all the stress with all these things that I'm doing. I don't think I'm gonna meet the expectations, or I don't like the risk of maybe not meeting the expectations. So I'm just gonna throw these projects out the window, right? That is an unhealthy coping mechanism, because you throw everything out the window, then it's just going to create a delayed stress, right? Because when all those things go out the window and they've not been done appropriately, or, you've not done the thing you were supposed to do, it's just deferred stress. It's not an actual coping mechanism. So another mechanism of stress is overeating. Now, this is something I suffer with. And I wouldn't say overeating. I would say just throwing all my thought process about healthy eating out the window. And I did that this weekend. It's an unhealthy coping mechanism. The coach also suffers with the things that she coaches to be better about. And you know why I'm good at coaching to be better about it? Because I have struggled and I continue to struggle. So I've learned techniques and I've gotten knowledge over time to cope, right? But me just throwing all healthy eating out the window and just eating whatever I feel like eating in the moment is a coping mechanism for me, because that's one less thing I have to think about when I have all those things in my head, right? What are we going to have for dinner? Like, oh God, I got to defrost this, got to cook that. Boys, y'all just eat the freezer food, the fish sticks, the chicken strips, the corn dogs. That's what y'all on this weekend. I'm just going to eat whatever I feel like eating this weekend. That is an unhealthy coping mechanism, in particular for me, because the boys are going to kind of balance themselves out a little bit. But me, I'm going to the sweets, right? I'm going to the sweets. Whatever. Okay, I'm a little hungry. Let me go get a bite of this ice cream, Oh, I didn't have dinner, but I don't feel like fixing myself anything to eat. I'm gonna have some more ice cream, because that's what makes me feel good. It releases the dopamine and it releases the stress. And it's those things that we do that we default to all the time are usually because we, at a point in our life, we didn't have good coping techniques, right? So it's our easy default to. And that goes for people who abuse substance too. A lot of us, didn't always have good stress management techniques, or we were taught stress management techniques, but they weren't good stress management techniques for us and our individual needs. So we had to figure some out over the years, or seek learning about stress coping techniques. Coping with stress. Techniques to cope with stress. Somehow that doesn't sound good any way I say it. But so we sometimes just defaulted. And I reached the peak thing whenever I got that new client on Friday. I was like, oh man, like, it's just all business this week. We're not worried about health at all. We just worried about getting the things done, right? So I did a very poor job of balancing my diet appropriately, and I just kind of threw caution to the wind, so to speak. So that is another way that, we cope unhealthily. And what can mitigate for that? Time management, meal prepping, stuff like that. Had I meal prepped a week ago before everything kind of mounted on me, I would have had things ready to go and just ready to throw in the microwave and heat or whatever. And that wouldn't have been an issue for me this week. So we can avoid unhealthy coping mechanisms by mitigating and, by time management, planning, and realizing that there are going to be stressful times that are going to be unexpected. Sometimes we expect stressful times, but we don't always expect them to be as stressful as they end up being. And I was in that situation this weekend because amongst all the other things that I was doing, there was an additional stressor added to me, right? So because I was not prepared with my food, right? I had been procrastinating making groceries. I reverted to stress eating, right? Just eating whatever. And another one that I'll talk about briefly is self-harm, right? And self-harm could vary from very minor things to more severe things. But I will say a lot of times self-harm is something that induces dopamine in people who are dopamine deficient. And, a lot of psychiatric conditions involve deficiencies in neurotransmitters, but also disruption in the concentration of neurotransmitters. And a lot of the things we do, all the things I just mentioned, and self-harm, somehow produces things in our body that can actually regulate them. So, self-harm, if you're suffering with chronic self-harm, that is a problem. Know that you aren't crazy. There's something going on physiological in your body, that your body inherently knows what causes some kind of regulation, and you're doing that to seek that regulation sometimes, right? So the best thing to do is seek professional help if it's a problem, if it's regular and long-term harm causing, right? And all these things, all these coping mechanisms are a method of causing self-harm. But when I talk about self-harm, it's like, cutting, putting yourself in very dangerous positions, that sort of thing. At some point on Mental Health Monday, we will talk a little bit about self-harm, maybe in conjunction with another topic, but we'll see. We'll see in the future. And the final point I have on my notes here, y'all, is literally seeking professional help, right? Sometimes when we are in peak stressful conditions where, let me catch a comment, Bettina. Bettina says she tends to stress eat, but she's better now. But that's a big but. Sometimes we're going to slip. Sometimes we learn better ways, more healthy ways to do things. But sometimes we're going to slip, and it's okay. I slipped big time this weekend, right? But it's okay, because I know I'm not going to continue to do it all this week and all the next week and all the next week, right? You pick yourself back up and you try again, right? And you live to do better the next day, right? Because we're human. We're going to falter. We're going to fall. We're not going to be at our best all the time, right? And in reference to substance abuse, that's why people with addictions are addicts for life, right? Because they know, they hope to remain sober for the rest of their lives, but they also know that they need to do whatever they can to prevent falling off the wagon again, right? Because we're human and it can happen. Things come up in life that push us off the wagon, so to speak, right? So that's why, addicts, they attend meetings, right? To remind themselves why they do what they do, or to remind themselves of the life they used to live, right? And so we all need to do that in a way for whatever our vice is. And remember, we talked about addiction some weeks ago. And if you need to go back and look at that and remind yourself, we all have those vices, right? But the thing is, healthy coping mechanisms can minimize the number of times we fall off the wagon. So if we find ourselves falling off the wagon all the time, we're just steeped in unhealthy coping mechanisms, we're failing to cope, life seems to be falling apart, or it's on the verge of falling apart, we need to seek professional help. We do. And just because you don't have a mental health condition doesn't mean you cannot benefit from seeing a mental health professional. A counselor, a psychologist, a psychiatrist. And one of the things that may need to be ruled out is, do you have a mental health condition that's predisposing you to have a stressful lifestyle? That happened to me. Before I became diagnosed with ADHD, my mental health condition that I didn't know I had was predisposing me to do things that created stressors in my life, right? Forgetting to pay the bills, was a stressor because now, I just messed up my credit again, right? Because I forgot to pay the bill, right? That's a stressor. Sometimes things you do as a result of a mental health condition can produce excess stressors in your life, which can, in combination with all the other general life stressors, elevate stress up here, right? Also, a lot of people with mental health conditions have problems maintaining healthy relationships, right? Or creating healthy relationships, which can be a stressor. We can go on and on and on that vein on mental health and the relationship to stress, right? Which is why we're talking about it here on Mental Health Monday, right? Stress can be the first symptom of a mental health condition, right? Everything can be going beautiful, and then all of a sudden you're under the stress level because this thing that never happened is going on, and you just don't know how to deal with it or respond to it appropriately, or you don't have the neurotransmitters to do what they need to do to respond to the situation, and all of a sudden you're very stressed out and things start to happen. So managing your stress level is important. Attempting to manage your stress level is important, but if you find yourself in a situation where it's beyond you, you're trying and it's not working, or you just don't even have the strength to try, you need to seek professional help in the vein of a mental health care professional. But that being said, other types of professional help you may need to seek are physical care provider, not just mental and physical, like a primary care provider. Maybe you need labs run. Maybe there is something physiological going on with you that can predispose you for high stress. There are certain tumors that can cause stress in your body because they cause a release of certain hormones in your body that are stress-related hormones, right? There are certain physical things that chronic pain can produce stress that can turn into mental stress, right? So we need to have a healthy relationship with a primary care provider all the time. And if you don't have one and you don't like who you're seeing, and that's why you don't go regularly, switch it up, keep looking. There's the good thing about primary care providers, there's a lot more access to them now because we have nurse practitioners in the world now. So, keep trying till you find somebody that you feel like is listening to you, till you find somebody who values your quality of life. That's what I struggled with, finding somebody who can hear me and say that what I was going through is affecting my quality of life, which can affect your stress levels, right? And I will say, before my autoimmune disease was diagnosed, one of the things I suffered with was severe fatigue. Before I was treated for the disease, let me put it that way, severe fatigue, which affected my ability to do the things which cause enhanced stress, right? And because of my history with care providers, going to the doctor was stressful. So I just got tired of going, got tired of telling people my symptoms, just got tired until I found somebody who listened, which reinvigorated me to, hey, a few years ago this happened, and just give them my thorough medical history and come to the doctor every time something was going on so she could stay on top of it and help me get a diagnosis, right? So keep looking for those providers that can help you get where you need to be. They're out there. More of them are out there now than there used to be. Let me put it that way for sure. I know it varies depending on where you live, but just keep trying. Don't give up on yourself. When you stop looking for that person for you that can take care of you, that's why they call them care providers. They're supposed to be taking care of you. So if you feel that person's not taking care of you, you move on and you look for this person who does feel like they're taking care of you. And part of number one for that is listening to you and also valuing your quality of life as an individual. And they can't know what your quality of life is if they don't listen, right? And if they don't ask the right questions. So if they're not listening and asking questions of you beyond what they want to know, but to investigate what you're telling them further, it's time to move on. And just keep looking. Anybody need help? Hit me on my inbox. I can give you some tips on how to find somebody, especially if you have the stressor of dealing with, certain insurance companies where you're limited to who you can see. But I think that's it on my bullet point list, y'all. I'm going to end it a little earlier today. Unless y'all have any questions, just go ahead and drop them in the comment section. Let me see. Let me open up a version of this to see how far y'all are behind the actual video. Usually there's a delay, and hopefully the delay is not too huge. I don't think it is. Oh yeah, it's a very brief delay. So if y'all don't have any questions, I'm gonna end it. Next week, I don't know what we're gonna talk about. I've been just kind of winging it from week to week, y'all. We did have like a temporary plan that lasted about 4 or 5 episodes, but we need to make a new temporary plan and maybe a long-term plan so we can let y'all know way in advance what we're going to talk about when. But I'll just say it doesn't matter what we talk about because you're going to get something positive out of every episode. And if it's not something for you, it'll be for somebody you know that you'll be able to help, right? But in the meantime, happy Monday. Y'all, Monday's over with, hopefully you don't have those types of weeks where it's like, oh, Monday. Hopefully Monday is a good thing for you because it represents new beginnings and the start of something new. Hopefully that's the attitude you have for Monday. And if not, keep hanging out with us. And we're going to tell you how to get to that point where Mondays will be a happy time for you, okay? But happy Monday. Have an awesome week. As a reminder, there will be no Self-Care Saturday this weekend, but we will be back here again 5:30 p.m. Central Standard Time with Mental Health Monday. And until then, y'all be sure to follow us on Facebook. And if you're watching on YouTube, click subscribe. And yeah, we'll see y'all next week. Have a great week. Take care, y'all.